I have lost over £100,000 to this stupid gambling addiction. This is my story and how I quit. I had never placed a bet in my life until around about, well, precisely in fact, the year 2000 was 24 years ago. I'd never placed a bet in my life, not even on the Grand National or anything like that, or, it just wasn't my thing, wasn't interested in it, until I got a little bit bored one day. I just finished work and I decided to, like, people at work were talking about gambling and betting on football and things like that. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I could give that a go, just see what that's all about. So I went home that night after work. I called up this betting company. I'm not going to tell you which name it is, not dropping any betting companies' names in this video. And I placed a bet. It was a £50 bet, which is quite a large amount of money for your first ever bet. It was even more money, by the way, back then, 24 years ago. Yep. And I put £50 on Birmingham City, who were in the second tier of the Football League, to beat Premier League Newcastle United that night, right? Which is quite a claim because obviously they're not favourites to win. I didn't know what I was doing. I put 50 quid on them, and the person on the phone said, because you're a new customer, we can give you a £20 free bet on the correct score. And I didn't know what I was doing, so I just sort of calculated in my head, and I said, right, 2-1 to Birmingham, right? And so if you're a Birmingham fan, you know where this is going, right? So that night I was out at the pub and I was watching the game, and I remember Birmingham went 1-up, and then Newcastle made it 1-1, and then it was around about the 92nd minute. It was definitely a stoppage time, and Birmingham fired in the winner to make it 2-1, and I went mental, because not only had I won off my actual bet, but I'd also won off the free bet. And I ended up winning about £320 on that day, right? Which was great. I was buzzing. I was so happy. It was a lot of money. It was like it was more than a week's wage for me. So that was good. And I was I couldn't be happier. It was great. Thereafter, I started betting like once a week. It was not on a Saturday, it was like on a Wednesday, because I got paid on Wednesdays. So then I'd go to the pub and I'd put a bet on the game, whatever game was on, and I put money on games. I won a few times, and I lost a few times. It was always around about £50 I put on one team or other to win. I remember I put £50 on Crystal Palace to beat Liverpool, and they did, I think. I also put £50 on Leeds United to beat Real Madrid, but they didn't. But that's when I kind of stopped at that point. I stopped myself and said, no, this is stupid. I don't like losing money this way. So I kind of didn't do it for quite a while. Set on putting like small amounts of money. It was a football coupon once a week. I put a couple of quid on here and there, right? That is all that I was actually betting. And then around about 2007, the gambling legalities just went berserk, right? So a Gambling Act of 2005 came into force in 2007. And basically what it stipulated was that gambling advertising was no longer illegal. Because before that, you couldn't advertise gambling companies. Gambling was not allowed on TV or anywhere, right? Now, in 2007, it was, and it was a free-for-all, right? So, right now, as we stand, you'll notice you've got wall-to-wall advertising of gambling companies everywhere. You can't escape it. When you're at the football, it's all around the grounds, it's on the team shirts, it's on, if you're watching on TV, you can't escape it. Adverts before the game, mid-game, it's ridiculous, right? And that's when that started in 2007. And I got dragged in by it. So the adverts were too much. I just started. It was. I mean, it could be a coincidence, but it was around. I know specifically what date it is, what time, what year it was that I started. Really, because of things that happen in my own life, I can correlate it, and I started at the time when the gambling adverts started on TV. And that's the truth. So it's not a coincidence. I was drawn in by these adverts and I was unable to escape it. So even when my gambling was at its worst, I could see how bad the adverts were. I hated the adverts coming on the TV because I was like, for fuck's sake, this is not fair on anybody. It's ridiculous. Leave people alone. Stop getting in people's heads with gambling. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, well, don't listen to adverts, right? But the more something is around you, the more something is pumped into your head, eventually it's going to get into your head, right? Even if you don't think that it is, even if you don't think that you're susceptible to advertising, eventually things get in your head. And this is what's been happening in sports all around the world for so long now, and it's time they stopped it, because you're getting young people thinking that gambling on the football is normal, right? It's normalized to the extent where they're getting addicted. I would say that, in fact, I would guarantee that gambling addiction is more prevalent now after the Gambling Act than it was before. Obviously, there's no statistics to back that up, but I reckon it is, right? And they've got to look at that then and think, why is that, right? Now, if it was cigarettes advertising got banned, didn't it? Right? It got banned because it's bad for you, it's unhealthy, and people die of smoking, don't they? Right? But here's the thing: people also die of gambling addiction. They commit suicide. People lose their homes, they lose their families, they lose their jobs, they lose everything. It is every bit as damaging as cigarettes, but these don't care. The government don't care. They think, it's harmless. It's not harmless, right? It's not harmless just to a few people. It is very damaging to most people, even if you don't think it is. It should be banned. It should not be allowed to be just normal consumption. Why do these gambling companies need to advertise, right? People who want to bet will find them, right? You don't need to sell betting to people, because that's what you're doing. You're selling betting to people. But if somebody wants to place a bet, they'll find you. You don't need to tell them to come to you, right? Anyway, so I started gambling then it started pretty bad, and it continued pretty bad. I remember I definitely bet every Saturday on football a fair amount of money. I remember losing a fair amount of money one time. I put like £400 on one game and I lost, and I was absolutely gutted that one. I really was. Back then, I was always gutted about losing money. I was always gutted about losing bets and things like that. And if I lost a lot of money, I was distraught. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't say anything to anybody because it was like my secret. It was embarrassing. And a lot of times, if I lost too much money, I'd just take myself off to bed. I'd go and sleep it off for a while because I didn't know what else to do. But as time went on, I got worse and worse and worse. The thing is that the more money I made, the more money I had available to bet. So this was never going to end well. If I carried on doing it, if I carried on going, it was never going to end well. Even if I earned more money, it would just all go on. If I won money, it would all eventually go back on betting. It would all eventually go back on sports, and it would all just fritter away. What I used to do is I used to try and win, right? And if I did win, I'd withdraw a percentage of what I had, and then I'd use that in order to pay bills and stuff like that. And then I'd use the remaining that I had to carry on betting. And that's if I was sensible. Sometimes, if I'm not thinking right, I just carry on betting. I'd never withdraw it, and I'd end up losing a lot anyway. The thing is, with these companies, there's no win. There's absolutely no win, right? There's no way of winning. So you eventually lose no matter what happens. And usually if you withdraw money, you end up ploughing it back into these companies eventually anyway. So on numerous occasions, I've seen that I've withdrawn hundreds of pounds, and then within days I've deposited that money back into them again. So there's no win at all. I got to the point where football wasn't enough because I wanted to be betting all the time. From the moment I woke up in the morning, I'd be thinking about it. It's all that was on my mind. I'd be betting on Australian football first thing in the morning, and English football in the evenings, and anything in between. Christmas Day, I remember being focused on betting on Arabic nation type football because they don't celebrate Christmas, so they play on Christmas Day. There's always people playing on certain days, on different days. During COVID, right? During COVID, this is interesting. During COVID, I was betting regularly on the Belarusian Football League. I never knew what those teams were before, and then I kind of became very well acquainted with them because they were the only league that was actually still playing football during COVID. Every other league in the world had closed down, but they didn't. Not quite sure why, but they carried on playing, and I carried on betting. That was good for me, right? But eventually I needed more than just the football, and I was betting on all sorts of sports. You got basketball, baseball, cricket. I used to hate cricket. I never liked cricket. I was never a fan of cricket, but I started watching it every time it was on TV because it was fun to bet on them. all sorts of different sports that I'd never ever watched before, and some that I'd never even heard of before. There's a sport called bandy, which is, I think, a Swedish-based sport. I'm still not quite sure the rules, but I still bet on it. Floorball is another one, which I still don't know what that is, but they took some of my money for it. Anyway, yeah, it was all fun and games, absolutely, until it got too much. It was like every single day, and more recently, it was a lot of money. I'd have to place a lot more money in order to get the same buzz out of it. So I was just placing £10 or £20 wasn't enough for me. So I was placing £100 at a time, £200, and right at the end, I was just frittering the money away. Literally, if I lost anything, I wouldn't be affected by it. I just wasn't. I'd basically become numb to losing the money. It didn't bother me losing £200 or £300, which is absolutely insane. It's ridiculous, and it sounds very selfish, but it was my way of coping with not winning. It was my way of coping with losing so much money all the time. And at the end, I remember I lost about £800 in a day, and I was like, it didn't bother me that much. I eventually placed a bet. It was October last year. I placed a bet on this Colombian second division match, right? Yeah. It was nearly midnight. A Colombian second division, and I placed the bet to have the score at the time was 2-0, and it was near the end of the game, and I said my bet was that there was going to be another goal in the game, and I just put it was £200 plus on it. If I'd won, I don't remember how much I would have won, maybe doubled the money, something like that. Anyway, the fact is that I just placed it without even bothering to think. I knew in my heart that the chances of it coming through as a win were pretty slim, and I just didn't bother. I just like, yeah, okay, this was my last £200, by the way, and I thought, whatever, right? As it turned out, the bet lost. And at that point, I said, right, that's it. I've had it. I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to quit. I mean, I've looked into quitting before in the past, but I've never seriously meant actually doing it. I've always kind of, in my heart of hearts, I didn't want to quit. And the whole time I've been betting, I've never really wanted to quit. Not seriously, ever. I didn't think I would ever quit, to be honest. And I decided at this point, that's it. There's no point. If I carry on doing this, I'm never going to win at life at all. There's no chance of me winning at life. I can't have a future because every penny that I ever make is going to go back on betting. Every penny that I have in my life, I'm not going to be able to save money up. I'm not going to be able to buy nice things. I'm not going to be able to buy anything. And I'm fed up of it, to be honest. I need to make a change. So that night I did. Some money, yes. I've lost a lot of money over the lifetime of my addiction. Just in the past, we're saying 17 years. I started in 2000, but my addiction really took hold in 2007, so 17 years. I reckon that I've lost over £100,000. The amount of money that I've deposited is frightening. So I've been through my statements from the past 2 years alone. I can't do it any longer. It'll take too long, and there's too much to go through. So from the last 2 years alone, I have deposited into these companies £67,000. That's how much I've deposited. I've lost £21,000. So 67,000 is what I deposited. I withdrew around about £48,000, and I've lost £21,000. And that's over a 21-month period, in actual fact. That was from January 2023 until October 2024. So I was losing at a rate of £1,000 a month just to gambling. That is ridiculous, and I'm sure that you're shocked. I'm shocked. I had no idea how much I was losing until I went through my books to have a look, and it's frightening. So I'm not saying that for the whole time that I was gambling that I was losing £1,000 a month, because I didn't always have £1,000 in order to gamble in a month, right? But I was putting most of my money on for years and years and years, and I don't recall having an awful lot back out of it. So I will have lost a lot of money over that time, and I estimate that it will have been £100,000 or more, which is frightening to say the least. I have done everything and anything to get money in order to bet. Every time I wanted money, it was always with a view of betting and like trying to get a stake for the game. You know, there's a game on tonight. How can I watch the game? I ain't got any money to bet on it. So I try and get some money. And at times I've done some really bad things in order to get that money. And I'm not proud of myself. So I remember one time that my friend came to stay, right? And whilst he was here, I went into his wallet and I took his bank card. I noted down his number, and then I used that to deposit sums of money into a gambling company. I didn't like doing it. There was actually no end goal, right? Because these companies, if I had won any money out of it, the money would go back to the card it was deposited from. So I wouldn't actually win anything ever out of it. There was no end goal for me. But I just needed the stake money in order to bet on, right? So I stole the money. I was not proud of myself. It was a terrible thing that I did. Absolutely awful. And at the end of it, I was like, I think I stole about £800. And I told the company, right? This was really bad of them, actually. I told the betting company that I'd done this, right? And their response was not to alert anybody or report it or even close my account down. No, they just said, what can you do? And they let me keep my account open, and they let me carry on betting, even though I told them that I'd committed fraud in order to bet with. But yeah, they didn't care. Which I personally find that really, really bad, right? As it went with my friend, he found out, well, I texted him and then I ghosted him, right? Because I was a coward. But eventually he caught up with me, and obviously he was very disappointed and, you know, everything. But I've since paid him back every penny of what I took, and yeah, I'm not proud of that. I've done other things as well. I've taken money off other people, and I stopped doing that years ago, because obviously it's very wrong, and there's just no need. If I wanted to feed my own habit, I need to at least do it legally and not involve other people like that. So just, you know. But other things that I did in order to get money is take out loans. I took out so many payday loans. Um, I would take out a payday loan with no view of paying it back, right? So I would take one out. Back in the day, this it's not quite as easy now to do this, but there used to be loads of payday loan companies around, and you could get your money within 15 minutes. It was really easy, and I had no intention of paying the money back, and oftentimes I didn't. Um, and then taking high interest loans recently, well, a few months back, I took out a loan of £300, and the repayments were over 3 times that amount. I would have been paying over £1,000 back, which I find quite predatory from them, but I did actually pay it back anyway, so that's sorted. But these are the lengths that I've gone to in order to get money to bet on, to bet with, and it's just horrendous what people do and what I've done. A lot of that I'm not proud of. So when I eventually decided to quit, I did so just like that. I decided there and then that enough was enough. I had been thinking about it for a little bit before that, so when time was up, I thought, no, gotta do it now. So what I did was I immediately went onto the GamCare website, which is a very good site, and it gives you information on how to quit and why gambling is bad. There are helplines available for you to discuss it with trained people. There's community forums and things where you can talk about it with other people who are going through the same thing. And yeah, it's a very good site. It also gives you links to tools that are helpful in this situation for you to try and quit, right? And a couple of the tools are what I've done. So basically, there's the GamStop service, which is excellent. Basically, you sign up for that, and you give them all your details, and they distribute your name and details around every single gambling based website and shop, right? And they exclude you or self-exclude you from every single service, every single website, so you can't use any site. You're excluded, and it's really helpful because you can do that yourself, right? But there's so many sites out there, you can't cover them all. I remember years ago I tried to do this. I self-excluded for on some sites, but you'd always find another site. So this service is excellent. They do it all for you, and you can't sign up for any more. I've had some emails through to me saying you're now self-excluded, you can't use us anymore, etc. So obviously I haven't checked every gambling website, but I'm just trusting the process, right? It seems like it's worked. There's another one that I'm using as well called Gamban, which is another really helpful service. They basically put a block on your device so that you can't access gambling-based websites at all. Right, and it's really good because it's free. is 100% free, so you can install it on your computer, on your phone, on your iPad, everything, and it's free. Now, years ago, I tried doing, I half-heartedly tried to quit, right? And there was a similar software that I had at the time, but it cost money. I paid money for it, which is automatically, it dissuades people from doing it, because if it's costing you money to do it, yeah. But I always found a way around that, so I was able to carry on, like, because I wasn't fully trying to quit at the time. I went to extremes to get that software off my computer, even to the extent of rebooting my entire computer at the time. But that brings me to another point, is that you need to want to quit. I mean, that sounds obvious and it's very cliched. People always say that, but it's true. If other people are telling you to quit and you feel forced or pressured into it, then you won't do it. You won't be able to do it because you don't want to, right? You will always be looking for a way around it. You will always be looking for a way to carry on doing what you're doing and hide it from other people. So you need to really, really want to quit. Find a reason why. Find your reason why to quit, right? I found my reason to quit, and I'm doing it. So, how long have I been quit for? That is the big question. Well, up to now, right now, as the time of recording, 2 months and 23 days. Now, that might not sound a long time. It may sound like I'm jumping the gun with I have quit sort of thing, but I personally feel like I have. I don't think that people in this situation, in my situation, will ever be fully, recovered, always in recovery, right? I've always got to keep my guard up. I've always got to be vigilant and be careful and not let my guard down, basically. I need to always stay on it. But I never thought that I would even make a couple of days. I didn't want to ever quit. I never thought about the whole time, really, I was doing it. I just never thought of giving it up. It was part of me. It was part of my lifestyle. It was part of everything that I did, everything that I thought about, 24 hours a day. And it felt like a huge chore. I thought to myself, if I quit, what am I going to do, right? How am I going to watch football, for example? Like, how am I going to watch it without placing a bet? How am I going to enjoy football again without this? Right. And the answer is that I can't. The first few days after I quit I just ignored football completely, right? Completely. I just didn't even look at the scores, didn't think about it, just ignored it as like it wasn't there. And even the first few weeks, I just wasn't really paying much attention to it at all, didn't watch any games at all. I tried to watch one game, and every time something happened in the game, I could feel like that sort of surge of adrenaline that I would get if I was placing a bet on it, and I thought, no, can't be bothered with this, put it off, turn it off. So now, nearly 3 months later, I'm still not really watching football at all. I watch my own team, and that's it. And even then, I find it like I don't find the same enjoyment out of it, which is disappointing. But I think it is what it is. Maybe it'll come back, in time. But I just gotta live with that, I guess. Carry on, get on with things, because what's happening now is far better than I could have ever imagined it to be, honestly. What I've noticed is that I feel so much joy right now. I feel free. I've got money in the bank. That is the biggest thing that I can ever, or the biggest reason I can ever have of staying away. I have money in the bank. I can buy things when I want to buy things. I can pay for things when I need to pay for things. I just can do it. I've never had money in the bank. Never. I was always down to my last pennies. Like literally pennies. Every last penny went on gambling. And I just feel like such a huge weight is off my shoulders now. I feel like I've got money to do whatever I want to do. And that is the biggest thing that will keep me quit. That's why I know that I'm quit. Because I'm enjoying things again. I might not be enjoying the football as I would have liked to, but whatever, I have money. Even if I have to pay a few quid to buy something, I've got the money. The amount of times where I've had, like, I needed to buy something like urgently, and I just was down to my last penny in the bank, and I couldn't. So this is good. I'm happy about this, and things are looking up. Things are definitely on the up in that respect. So my future looks better. I can now save some money, and I am saving money. I can buy things when I want to buy things. I can look to actually making money rather than just throwing it away. Now, I'm happy for myself. Obviously, I've got to keep on guard all the time and not let my guard down in that respect. I wish that these companies would take more responsibility. There has been more things put in place in recent years, like gambling companies, they have to tell you to take a break and have to warn you that it could be harmful to do what you're doing, right? But they don't mean it. They want you to spend your money with them. There's just not enough. They need to quit the adverts. Period. They have to. That is the main thing that's drawing people in. As I said earlier, if people want to gamble, they will find the way to do it, but you don't have to persuade them through adverts all day long. Right. So thank you all so much for listening to this. I know it may have come as a bit of a shock to some people, but I'm sorry. This has been my story. Please give it a massive thumbs up if you have appreciated this comment. Any thoughts you have about it down below. Have you experienced this yourself? Have you been a problem gambler, or do you know somebody that has been? I know a lot of people do go through this and are affected by this every day. So let me know your thoughts about it down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Until next time, take care and bye bye.